What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. That's right, the only sports podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. How we doing today, Casino?
Good, I'm eating Fritos.
Casino's over there eating
Yeah,
Fritos.
I'm done eating Fritos because they're so loud. They crunch so well.
I'm over here drinking tea.
I love tea. You drink a lot of tea, man.
Dude, I drink about a gallon every 2 days. Not even joking.
Just
Uh,
do you make your tea or is it?
I do. I
Yeah,
make it.
you throw it out in the backyard, sun dry it, steep it.
I'm thinking of doing that during the summer, but
It's good,
during the
dude.
sun tea.
Well,
Uh,
that's how me and my family do it all the time. Like every time I go to my parents, I'm excited because I know they have like two gallon things of fresh tea that they just sat out in the sun. It's good.
Yeah, I love tea. But we're not here to talk about tea today, Casino,
But what's the
because
tea?
yeah, sadly we have none. Except for what's in my cup. But what we are here to talk about is football, football, football. We are also have some things in the work for this podcast that in a couple weeks you're going to see a change to the Thursday show. We'll leave it at that. A change. But right now on this Thursday show, let's first talk about college football. We are in week 13, which is crazy. Only, I believe, 3 more weeks until we are, or no, we're in week 13. There's only week 14 until the championships, which is crazy. So 2 weeks away from the championships. The marquee game, obviously, for this week is Indiana, Ohio State, number 5 Indiana versus number 2 Ohio State. Who do you think wins this one and why, Casino?
Um, it's going to be Ohio State. Indiana, they haven't really had that tough of a schedule. Yes, they are 10-0. They play some decent teams. Northwestern's not a bad team. Nebraska normally is going to be a good team, but they blew them out. Um, yeah, they had UCLA. So I mean, they've had some decent teams, but nothing compared to what Ohio State's had to go against. So I do think, and this is going to be in Ohio State, and I know Indiana did just beat Michigan, but we've talked about how Michigan is not the same team as they were last year when losing half their team and their coach. Um, so the Buckeyes, I think, is going to take this one and is going to give Indiana their first loss of the season, and that might be the only loss they need to bump them out of the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, Indiana right now is undefeated, and they are the second highest scoring team in the entire college football landscape. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean,
will
because Ohio State, they just won against Penn State. Their only losses against Oregon in Oregon, but they could have won that game if it didn't come to that late slide. So now, yes, they've played a lot of cupcakes as well, but with that being said, they've also played a couple. They played two really good teams, and they're 50% on that, which they should be 2-0. So I'm going to go
yeah.
Ohio State.
Yeah, these two ranked number second and third in terms of allowing the least yards on defense in the league. So Indiana, not only an offensive powerhouse, but a defensive
I
powerhouse as
think the
well.
defense is the only way that's going to be able to keep them relevant in this game.
Yeah. And I mean, Ohio State's still in the top. It looks they're in the top 12 in terms of yards, points, everything offensively. So it's not like there's a big gap here. But I do think this just comes down to the name Ohio State versus Indiana. Because if you just took these two names away, I feel like people would be looking at Indiana being like, they got a chance. They got a chance. But because it's Ohio State and then Indiana, I think all the money and all the respect is being put on Ohio State's name.
Well, again, yeah, the Hoosiers, they haven't really played anybody worth of note, and Ohio State actually has. So you can't be like, oh well, Ohio State's played a lot of the same teams as Indiana has. That might be the case, but they've also played two games, that are top tier games. So
Yeah, they lost by 1 against Oregon and then won by
which
7 against Penn
yeah,
State.
and they should have won. And I'll be honest, they should have won that game against Oregon. It was
Yeah,
it was a half a second slide too late. It was a pump fake too many. That was it. That was it.
yeah.
So, you know, it's not like Ohio State lost that game. Oregon didn't win that game. because
No,
that's how it came down to.
and yeah, when you look at like you're saying, Ohio or Indiana's numbers are inflated because they've played. I mean, they put up 77 points against Western Illinois. They blew out UCLA. They blew out Nebraska. Like it's like I don't know. And I've liked Nebraska all season, but that doesn't mean they're a good team. Same with Michigan State. It was impressive they beat Michigan, but again, only in name only because this Michigan team is not the obviously national championship team they were last year. But so I do think this is going to probably be an Ohio State blowout. But if Indiana wins and beats Ohio State, then I feel like an already messy college football playoff bracket, which we talked about last episode,
Oh,
gets
it's gonna be
even
gross. Yeah,
messier.
this is gonna be fun. So do you think I'm gonna ask you this? Do you think Kansas can upset Colorado in Kansas after having that really good performance that they had last week?
Yes. I don't know. There's just something about Colorado where I feel like again, this might be the Colorado hater in us, which I don't even hate Colorado State. I just feel like you have to be either all in or all out when it comes to Colorado, and I'm still kind of in the middle about them, but yeah, I just don't think they're just a shoe-in to win the remaining games, and then all of a sudden, there's talk, we floated it on here, that they're just automatically going to the playoffs. And again, if their coach was named Bob Smith instead of Deion Sanders, I don't know they'd be getting the publicity they currently are, especially as a 16th team in the nation where teams above them, I mean, they get less publicity or they get more publicity than almost every state above or every school above them, not named what, Ohio State and Oregon. Like they definitely get more publicity than, maybe like Oregon, Ohio State, Texas. And then I think they get more coverage than Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Miami, Boise State, SMU, BYU, Texas A&M. I think they get more publicity than all of those teams, not combined, but all of them just on a national scale because they're always in the, marquee matchups on whatever news or whatever channel showing games.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So a
yeah,
couple other ones of note. I think this is going to be, and I want to know your opinion on it as well. Arizona State BYU 14 versus 21. Do you think BYU is currently out of it in your playoff bracket? And if so, if they win this game against Arizona State, who's ranked, do you think that pushes them enough back into the college football playoffs?
no, much like how UNLV had their moment to be in the college football playoffs, which
It's not
was
over. It's not
uh,
over.
well, to be in the 12 team playoffs, it probably is. But
Well,
much
again, it doesn't. No, no, not necessarily. And I'll
well, in
explain.
my eyes,
I'll explain why again. A
yeah.
little bit more clearer than last week. I'll explain why.
In my eyes, that was their year in or year out game. Last week against Kansas, to me, that was BYU's in or out game, especially when it was tied 10-10 going into halftime. BYU takes the lead, and then literally the fourth quarter touchdown, they had it happened almost immediately. So they
Hmm.
had, or no, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. It happened at the end of the game, and then game's over and when BYU was leading the entire game. Now,
yeah,
Kansas again is good and Colorado should be on upset alert, but BYU's win and get in game was basically this was supposed to be this game. It ended up being last game and they're out. I really do think that if they win out, they might be one of the at 5 or at large bids, but I don't know. Again, because you
gotcha.
have all those SEC teams in there that people are going to start making the case like, oh, well, BYU lost to Kansas. Would you rather have them or Georgia? Would you rather have them or Texas? And then it's just going to
Right,
muddy the water
right.
and it's going to be all SEC teams.
Gotcha. So now moving over to the last game of note that I think is important would be the Notre Dame Army game, and this solely comes down to yes, I'm talking UNLV, but this solely comes down to going to be the 12th team in. If Army can beat Notre Dame, and obviously they still have to win their conference tournament, but if they beat Notre Dame, there should be no way that you could expect them to lose to Navy. And like say Navy makes the conference championship or Tulane. Um, so either one of those two teams, going up against Army. If Army can win against Notre Dame, I still think Army will win that conference anyway. So with that being said, if they even if they win that conference, but they lose to this Notre Dame team, I don't think that they have a strong enough strength of schedule, even with one loss, to make the finals. Obviously, if Boise State goes through, that's not going to happen because Boise State's going to, obviously be clear a much better team than them. But there is a real reality check for Army, and this is a huge weekend that comes down to the 12th spot because if Fresno State beats Colorado State, as I mentioned last week or last episode, then that would, as long as UNLV wins out, that would put them in the conference championship against Boise State. And obviously, if Boise State, regardless at this point, wins the conference championship, no other team in any conference is going to touch them. They're going in. But if UNLV can win out and Colorado State loses this week against Fresno State or Utah State next week and they have the one loss and UNLV beats Boise State, which would make UNLV eligible, who's currently sitting at 23, by the way, in the nation. Whoop, whoop. If they do win that game, if Army has one loss, I still think UNLV would get in just because of the strength of schedule that Army's had. And say Tulane wins, and beats Army, they only have two. They have two losses as well, and just strength of schedule. So I really think it's going to come down to if Army wants to win and go. If Army or Tulane actually want to advance to that college football playoffs, they would have to have not only Boise State lose in the conference championship, they would have to have Boise State lose to somebody in the conference championship that is not UNLV. So it would have to be Colorado State winning out, beating Fresno, and then beating Utah State, and then somehow beating Boise State. If that happens, then I think you have either Tulane or Army go into that last spot. So that's how I think it shakes down. I think there's a very slim chance UNLV can make it. But when it comes to strength of schedule, it really comes down to this week. You have to have the Fresno State game, and Notre Dame Army game, Fresno State Colorado game, and then obviously Boise and UNLV have to win out. If that all happens, this can get really, really interesting. Come down to the wire for those two conference championships to see who gets that final play-in spot. So that is going to be fun. Like obviously, I've been watching this a lot more than you, but I mean, and not trying to be a UNLV homer. Those are all realistic expectations of how this can play out. You are on mute. If you've been trying to talk this whole time.
No. And with that being said, Casino, the last thing I wanted to talk about with college football, the 2024 Heisman Trophy odds. And this was sparked by one of our.
And before you get to that, like also if say Army wins this game and Notre Dame loses, I think they're out. I think Notre Dame would be out.
Yeah.
So
Especially
this is a do or die game for Notre Dame as well. So that's another reason why this game has big implications, is this Army Notre Dame game to see who can advance into the playoffs or has the potential to advance into the playoffs. So
Well, yeah,
a lot of big games.
BYU lost one game, and they fell 8 spots.
Yeah.
So I feel like everybody outside of the SEC is going to pretty much suffer the same fate if that happens to them. Especially
even
the last
I don't
2
care.
weeks.
I don't even care that it's a ranked game. Like
Yeah.
if I mean, and their only loss so far has been to Ohio State by 3 point. Oh wait, no, that's a different Notre Dame game. Who did they lose to? They lost to Northern Illinois. That wasn't a good game.
Yeah.
So even if they lose to Army as a ranked game, Notre Dame's out. out. So this weekend has got a lot of implications for final seeding for teams that are trying to make the college football playoffs.
Yeah. And so when we talk about the 2024 Heisman Trophy, Casino, there's only 2 players who are really in the mix. And
that's what
is
I wanted to talk about next. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, that is Travis Hunter from Colorado. The odds right now for him to win it are -350. And then Ashton Genty, the Boise State running back, who the odds are plus 380 for him to win. And then it drops off a cliff in terms of odds. So
Yeah.
basically, it's a two-man race. One of your friends, loyal listener to the show, was making the case that it's Travis Hunter by a mile because
And
he
he wants
plays
you to get
both
off
ways.
Genty's nuts, as he said. One
Yeah.
last thing. Tell Will to get off Genty's nuts. Travis Hunter is winning the Heisman.
So let's break it down. So Travis Hunter, the front runner right now, obviously because he plays two ways. So the two ways he plays are wide receiver and corner, right? So his wide receiver stats this season, 74 receptions, 911, nice. Yards and then 9 touchdowns, right? And then rushing, he doesn't have anything. Defensively, he has 23 tackles, 16 of them solo, 7 assisted, 8 pass deflections, 0 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 3 interceptions. So, again, pretty good numbers, right? When you look at him, pretty good numbers. However, when you look at Ashton Genty this season, 256 carries, 1,893 yards, so almost 1,900 yards, and 26 rushing touchdowns. Okay. So when you look at these two at their positions, okay, Casino, let's pull this up right here. Receiving this year, the Travis Hunter is 14th in wide receivers. So he's 14th in terms of yards and pretty far down on the list in terms of touchdowns because he's caught 9. A bunch of people have caught 10 or more, right? So 15 people are better than him at wide receiver if we're just looking stat wise. Rushing wise, oh, let's see. Ashton Genty, 1,900 yards. The closest one to him has 1,400. 26 touchdowns. The closest to that has 21.
I
So,
totally agree. I totally agree. But here's I'm agreeing with you. I think it's Genty and Travis Hunter because it just doesn't go to a running back, man. It just doesn't go to a running back. But he's
yeah,
doing something that running backs haven't done. Even the Heisman Trophy winners of past have not done. Like that's what's blowing my mind. I mean, the only thing that Travis Hunter's got going for him is so he's declared for the draft and he says that he can play in two positions, right? He's got the wide receiver and he wants to play cornerback. So he's a dual threat. So I guess that makes him more as a Heisman candidate. But I mean, when it comes to numbers, nobody's doing what Genty's doing. Not a
no,
single person. And I know he's not playing the best run defenses. The best run defense that he's played all season was UNLV's. And after that, Oregon, which was still almost it was 48th at the time. I don't know what they are now, but so he hasn't played the best run defenses in the league. But you can say that with Colorado, they're not playing the best passing defenses in the league. Like,
yeah. Well,
I mean,
that's the whole thing. And it's also like, would you again, the Heisman winner is supposed to be someone who is excelling in college football at a position.
yeah,
So give me the
totally.
position that what is it? Travis Hunter is excelling at
No,
because
he's a dual threat. That's what makes him on that
if
list.
he's pretty good at both, that's impressive. But again, it's not Heisman worthy to be pretty good at two positions. I'd rather have you be elite at one than pretty good at two. Would you rather, Casino, pay a hooker who's pretty good at everything, or would you rather pay a hooker who gives you the best blowjob of your life? You'd rather go for the best blowjob of your life than okay, you're decent at everything. Like, because that's not going to be memorable, right? Especially if you're paying your hard earned money for it. Okay.
I can't. I can't.
um,
As you can tell, we're still
yeah.
not 100% healthy as we're
but
coughing.
But again, if anybody would like to make the case for why Travis Hunter should do it, if your case is he's doing something that hasn't been done before, players used to do this all the time, right? Where they would be a two-way player. And again,
Not even a two-way player, a two-sport player.
that's true. His dad did it. But again, if the argument is he's doing something that we haven't seen in decades, then yes, that's impressive. But he's not elite at either position. So if the Heisman's gonna go to a guy who's good at two positions, then that's fine. But to me, the Heisman has always been who's the best at their position and almost transcending college football this season. And that is
Mhm.
Genty. I don't know how you can not make it Genty.
I
But
agree.
let's move on, Casino, to our power rankings. And first up, I just realized I didn't make a power rankings beginning slide for this one, but I did
But we were
make,
busy today looking into future podcasts. So
that's true. So I didn't have enough time. But I did have enough time to put our power rankings together. First, starting with Casino for the NFL, your number 10 team going into this week is the Washington Commanders. Now, they
yeah.
fell pretty far from last week, Casino. Was that loss on Thursday so detrimental?
Um, Obviously not to boot them out, but I just feel like there's other teams that I like their fight better right now, and I like how they're playing right now. Not saying that Jaden Daniels is playing bad; he's playing really good. He's still currently my front runner for rookie of the year, but there's somebody going to catch him, I think, and we'll talk about that. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, well, we'll get into that, but I do think last uh the Eagles lost, even though I have the Eagles flying high right now. Um, you don't want to lose that game because that's an elite team. You want to continue to play better against elite teams. But for so far, what we've seen against the more tough components, tough competitors,
Competitors.
yes,
Yeah.
um, they're not. They're losing those games. So you are a good team, but you've lost to the Steelers. You've lost to the Eagles. You've lost to the Ravens. All these teams that we are looking at as playoff teams. So, and then the Bucks would have been a playoff team, in my opinion, if they still had all their weapons. So,
Well,
they
now
just got
with
to
the
they got to
Falcons
get
imploding, they still might be.
right.
They
So you
could
still
be.
have to get over that hump, right? So three of four are playoff teams right now, and could have been four, and maybe four if the Bucks go on a streak. So they did drop in my power rankings because they need to do it against the elite teams. They
Yeah.
need to do it. They can show me it one more time. Yes, they play the Falcons, but I'm not saying the Falcons are elite right now. They can show me one more time when they play the Eagles at home. When they on December 22nd, when they play the Eagles, that's going to show me if you make the playoffs, you are ready to go against a good team.
But
Against a
but
playoff team.
but also Eagles this year 5-1 on the road.
Yeah.
So they're a pretty damn good
Well,
road
I know
team
that's
as
what I'm
well.
saying. I need to see the Commanders, even if they win out. They say they beat the Cowboys, they beat the Titans, Saints, Falcons, and Cowboys again. Easy schedule. That's a 5 wins that I could see them easily winning. You know,
Yeah.
that does not matter to me. You need to beat the Eagles in Washington. You have to beat the Eagles on the 22nd to prove to me that you can go against the teams that you've lost to so far, the Steelers, the Eagles, the Ravens. You have to beat those teams if you want,
Yeah.
to be considered an elite team right now. So yeah,
Well,
so they
especially
dropped down to 10 for me.
Well, especially, yeah, when you look at them, we've talked about having questions about their defense after that game on Thursday night. Their defense fell back to 23rd in the league in total defense. So right now, their defense is a little bit worse, at least on paper, stat wise, a little bit worse than the Cowboys defense right now. And the Cowboys defense is obviously abysmal. So yeah, again, question marks on their defense. Question marks now with Jaden Daniels, which is he's played his worst games against the best team. So is he just, speaking of the Cowboys, is he a Dak Prescott-esque quarterback where he plays his best games against the weakest competition and then kind of folds against higher definition or higher team wins? But again, we don't know. We don't know. Next up, Casino, your number 9 team, the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals, again, leading the NFC West division right now. Why do you like the Cardinals right now at 9?
Again, I like this team. I brought it up last week as well. I like how or last episode, their fight is just really good. I think Kyler Murray is not he doesn't have the noise around him this year. They've been in almost all their games. They're scrappy. I like seeing scrappy teams, and they're making people talk about them. Nobody was talking about them, and then everybody's now like, oh, the Cardinals, the Cardinals, the Cardinals. Can they be this? Can they do that? You know, whether they do it or not, people are talking about them and they are turning heads.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Especially when you look at again the season Kyler's having 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but more importantly, the season that James Conner is having. I mean, he is almost at 3 yards away from being at 700 with 5 touchdowns. So him and Kyler Murray as like this 1-2 punch in terms of running the ball. They are sixth in the league in total rushing right now, 15th in the league in total offense, and then 18th in the league in total defense. So one win separates the Seahawks, and stat wise, they're basically the same team except you flip passing and rushing. So that'll be a good game to see. You know, if Cardinals keep on winning and 49ers keep losing every other game, I mean, this looks like, you know, it's going to be Cardinals in the playoffs. And that's a team that in the playoffs, I feel like could upset some people because, again, you can't really plan for Kyler Murray and all that he can do. But number 8 casino on your list is shockingly the Baltimore Ravens have fallen to number 8.
That defense, man, that just worries me so much. I mean, I don't care what you do on the run defense. If you are just Swiss cheese in the backfield and you could just let people, or in the secondary, and you could just let people toss on you all day. I don't care how good. I know, honey, I'm trying to get it on for you. I don't care how good of an offense you have. You're just not gonna win.
Yeah. Again, the note we always make with the Baltimore Ravens is they're number 1 in total offense by a good margin, number 2 in the league in passing, number 1 in the league in rushing. So have the most rush yards, second most pass yards in the league. Lamar Jackson, 67% completion percentage, about 25 yards away from being at 2,900 yards on the season, 25 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But again, the games he struggles in, well, at least to win, the games he struggles in are Steelers and Chiefs. At least in the Chiefs games, he puts up good numbers. The Steelers just have this blueprint of how to stop him. So if he plays any team in the playoffs besides the Chiefs or the Steelers, then who knows what. I mean, Baltimore's probably going to the Super Bowl. The issue is he'll most likely have to play either one or both of those teams in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl. And he's only beaten the Chiefs once in 6 attempts. He's, I think, has never beaten the Steelers, or if he has, it's been in one of the rare good games he's had against them. So, yeah, again, the Lamar Jackson questions are valid, but they get a lot louder in the playoffs. Right now, the regular season issue is they're 29th in the league in total defense. And when you watch that team play defense, it's like you never think they can get a stop. And as an Eagles fan, that feeling of just the bend don't break, but then they eventually break you has been a thorn in my side for, I mean, the past 5 years. So that's your number 8th team, Casino. Your number 7th team is, and I'm pulling it up right here. Up, I lost the thread. Is the team they play this week, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers.
I like Justin Herbert, man. I think Justin Herbert's a special talent. I really
Whoa,
do
hot
it.
take.
I One sec, hold on, BJ. Pause that at 29.
Your number 17 Casino is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yes. Ooh, ouch, that hurt. Yeah, that Frito pie is coming back up to haunt me here. Um, no, I think Justin Herbert's a special talent, man. I know you haven't really cared for him. I think he's been outstanding for most of his career, and so I'm looking back at it right now. We've been giving him like meh, right, over the past couple of years, just because the Chargers organization has been crap. But in 2020, he had a so 2020 all the way to 24, he's been this is actually his worst completion rating since he's gotten into the league. It was started off at 66 and 60, 66 and a half, 66, 68, and then 65%. And then this year, right now, is 63.5% completion rating. All of his yards, like he's less now. Um, yeah, dude, he's over his career right now. He's 127 touchdowns, 43 interceptions over the 5 years that he's been playing, with a overall rating of quarterback rating of a 96.3. Like that's really good. That's really good. And I think it gets overlooked because the Chargers don't do well, is because that organization just just imploded with the horrible coaching, the horrible GMing, owner, the whole way up.
Yeah.
Um, so the fact that he was doing that and people were still giving him crap about it, I'm really happy that he's coming into his own of, hey, I'm not the problem. I've never been the problem. I like what Justin Herbert's been doing. I think with this coach and this new setup in San Diego, or you know the Los Angeles Chargers, they're
Which
San Diego,
I do hate saying that. Yeah.
dude, it's the worst. But the Chargers, nonetheless, they're special. They're special, and I think they're going to really start hitting the ground in the next few years. They're going to be good. They're going to be good. What we've expected them to be over the last 4 or 5 years, they're finally going to really get going.
Yeah, it is weird how the Chargers are the perfect example of why coaching matters because they
Coaching, GMing, ownership, like it all matters.
yeah,
Like, I mean, look at it in Washington. Look at it
yeah,
in Washington, man.
no, that's
It
true.
it's a it all matters. It all
Well,
matters.
well, look at what the Jets keep doing, where they just keep bringing in the most random people you've ever heard of,
It's
and then they
horrible.
fall apart.
And then
Yeah.
Chicago Bears, the same
Yep.
kind of way. Like it does it. And then we talk about Mike Tomlin. You know, he's never had a losing season. It really matters about coaching. It really matters about the front office. So you can have the talent, like Joe Burrow, for instance. He's an outstanding talent. I also think he's easily, by the end of his career, like just with what he can do on the field, I think he would be in the top 20 best quarterbacks to ever play. And I know that's saying something, but he's just on a bad team. Like they don't spend money, they don't spend money. They don't do this or that. There's talks about T Higgins walking right now,
Yeah.
so
That O line gets worse every year he's
that O
there.
line gets worse every year.
Yeah.
Did you see his latest interview? By the way, I know I'm going off a little tangent here, but did you see Joe Burrow's latest interview? And they're like, or basically like, what's going on? And he's like, I think it's self-explanatory. And
Yeah.
like, he's just done. He's done getting his ass handed to him when he's being an MVP. You put him in front of um, the Lions O line. Oh dear
Oh yeah.
God.
Dude,
Oh God.
you put him on the how he's playing right now. You put him on the Eagles, you put him on the Lions, you put him on these other teams that like are known for having O-lines,
Yeah.
and those teams are undefeated right now. There's no
Yeah,
question.
no question.
No question.
No question. So, again, I like Justin Herbert. I love where this team's at. I know these power rankings are going long. I'm sorry. Continue.
Your next pick, Casino, is the Minnesota
Yeah,
Vikings.
they're good. Sam Darnold, it's kind of worrying some a little bit now. I think is he turning back into a pumpkin? I don't know. But overall, this team still has so many weapons that I think this is a good place for them. I think sitting here at 6 is a good spot. Let's just leave them there. That's all I got about them.
Yeah, they're middle of the road, but they're still again maybe the sneakiest 8-2 team we've seen in a long time. 8-2. This team's literally lost 2 games, and we talk and treat them like they're bottom
Sh-
feeders or
Yeah,
whatever.
that they're
But
shit in the bed sometimes. Yeah.
yeah. But Darnold, 68% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions.
Boo.
Not
Boo.
bad.
68. Boo.
Not one more, one more. But yeah, I mean, we've said enough about the Vikings. I don't know what else there is to say. Again, do they have any games on their upcoming schedule that are like prove it games? Because I know they play the Bears
I'll
this
pull them
week,
up here real quick.
but that's more a Bears last hope game. The
No, I think the
Vikings.
Bears. I think that game against the Packers was their last hope. I think they are done.
Oh, next week they play the Cardinals. So
Okay.
that's a good if they can contain them. And then week 18, but see, they play the Lions in week 18, but the Lions at that point might have already locked up a bye and just been like, we're resting people. There's no
Yeah,
reason to risk it.
it's
So
resting people, man. That always bothers me.
I know. Well, especially if you have a bye. So that way you're gonna be resting people for almost 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, the Viking
Like,
schedule is going to be tough, dude. They got the Cardinals, they got the Falcons, Bears, but they got Seahawks, Packers, Lions. They got a tough schedule.
yeah,
They've got a they're playing
all
teams that are
teams with
fight
winning records.
all
Yeah.
teams with winning records, teams that are fighting. A couple teams, except for the Bears, they're playing teams that are fighting for a playoff spot with the Cardinals and Falcons. And Seahawks, I know they're pretty much out of it. They would have to have a lot go their way. But then with the Packers, and because the Lions are definitely going to win that division, so yeah, man, they're playing for teams that are trying to get into the playoffs, and that's they're gonna come after them too. This
Yeah.
none of this is going to be easy for the rest of the way for the Cardinals or for the Vikings.
Well, yeah, we're heading into week 12. So basically, from week 13 on, they basically play playoff games the entire time. So, and not for them, for the other teams. So that'll be a nice test to see how legit this 8-2 Vikings team really is. Because
Yeah,
again, we both keep putting them in our power rankings. They're in mine. So we think they're pretty legit, but are they too legit to quit? We don't know, Casino. Next
which
up,
would make
your
them unlegit.
next up, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I do.
Uh Finally, it's been a month where we've just given up to that the Steelers are good. They beat the Ravens.
Well,
Now
that's
they're
what.
going up against a 2-8 Browns team that they're gonna annihilate.
Oh yeah, they're gonna absolutely annihilate them. But we talked about it going into this last weekend that this was whoever wins that Ravens Steelers game. Obviously, was going to be the division leader for that division. But also, this is going to prove to me if the Ravens were you know too messed up on defense, and if the Steelers were legit. And the Steelers are legit. That defense is just outstanding. TJ Watt looks phenomenal over there. And yeah, it looks absolutely great. And then Russ is playing his best football since they won the Super Bowl. So he's absolutely crushing it.
Yeah. And he what is it? And again, we just talked about the Vikings. For the question marks for the Steelers,
And
I
he
think
beat
that
he
is
and again he just beat Baltimore without the offense scoring a touchdown. Like
yeah. Well,
this
their
this
defense
team is good, man. This team is good.
right now, their defense in total defense, they're eighth in the league. But when you look at their numbers, you can pass against them. You cannot run against them. So they're the fourth ranked running defense in the league. And we saw that nothing is more evident than that last week, where TJ Watt just buried Derrick Henry like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. One person tackling Derrick Henry, where Derrick Henry didn't even have a chance. Like, that tells you how stout their run defense is. Now,
Yeah.
passing defense, again, when we look at who they're going to play
65
in,
yards for Henry. Oof.
yeah. And especially when, how many attempts did they give him? They gave
I
him
don't know.
pretty good chunk.
But
But
yeah, so TJ Watt that game, he had one sack and three solo tackles, and those were all against Henry, man.
yeah. So, and also, oh, that game's tonight, Steelers Browns, a game
Mhm.
I will not be watching
I
because
will be. It'll be at work, so I'll have it on.
uh, we don't have TVs at my work because my bar's being remodeled. So it's been brutal. It's been brutal. But now, Casino, we move on to your
Yeah.
what number 5 pick. It always messes me up because I saved the last two.
Six,
So there's
five.
only 8 on this.
No, this is
So,
four. This is fourth. My
oh, your
fourth.
fourth one coming up. Your number fourth on the list. This is gonna raise some eyebrows, Casino, because your number fourth pick as the fourth
I've been
best team in
waiting
the
for it.
NFL.
Been waiting for it.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
They've been squeaking by all season, barely winning out games, and I just can't justify him putting them in front of the next three teams who have been blowing out teams. They've had their blowout games. I have not seen the Chiefs dominate dominate a game yet. They are squeaking by. I mean, hell, they only beat the Raiders by a touchdown. Like, and then, I mean, Denver's doing really good. And I can't justify putting the Chiefs any higher. I just can't.
No, especially with
Um,
the teams obviously above them.
right.
Is yeah.
And I've been waiting for that loss because I've been saying it, you can't really throw an undefeated team low in the rankings, but they've lost. They finally lost.
And
And
you think they're gonna lose 2 or 3 more.
I think they're going to lose two more. I think they're going to lose two more. And I think the Bills will lose one more. And that would put the Bills at the number one seed because they have the tie break. That's how I
Hmm.
see it.
I mean, yeah, I could see that,
Well, I
especially
mean,
when
I broke it down last week, and I mean, I'll just quickly reiterate it again. The Chiefs, they play. I'm pulling it up. Shit, I didn't.
yeah, I should have had it up, but
Damn it.
I had faith in you,
Um,
and now
yeah,
my
no, I
faith's
do.
lost.
Why'd you have faith in me? No, but I mean, they have the Chargers, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Broncos. I can see them losing two of those games.
Yeah, I think they beat the Texans, I think but again,
I think they'll
we
lose to the Steelers on the road,
yes.
and I really do. And then I honestly think that the Broncos are playing phenomenal. I mean, their last two losses might come down to the last two games.
Well, also, the Chiefs always lose a weird one. What are the odds that in the next 2 weeks they
I
lose
can
one
see
of the
them. I
games?
can see them lose. I honestly can see them losing to the Raiders. The Raiders almost beat them. And I mean, would this is this most likely going to be like a huge line going towards the rate or to the Chiefs? Absolutely. But could I see a weird upset with the Raiders beating the Chiefs? Yeah, we've already seen it. Nobody expected the Chiefs or the Raiders to be even close to the Chiefs the last game, and they were within a touchdown. They played them
That's
tough.
true. Well,
They
then
played them tough.
remember, I think it was either last season or the season before that, they lost that weird game to, like, the really bad Colts. Remember they
Mhm.
couldn't even score I think they scored 1 touchdown and
And
lost, like, 15-10 or
I,
something?
I I think losing to the Bills and now that showing that they're vulnerable, I think that's going to rattle them a little bit. And I can honestly see them, and I do have them losing two games. It most likely will be against the Chiefs or against the Steelers and Broncos at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But you know,
But
we'll
I'm
see.
telling you what, we're gonna have a field day on this podcast if the 2 games they lose are the next 2 at Carolina and Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think either are likely, but if they lose to the Panthers, we're, I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna have to do something big
I'm gonna
because
have to
that's
change my
gonna be
pants.
that's gonna be crazy.
Anyway,
Uh,
all right, moving on.
but
This my power rankings are taking way too long. I'm sorry.
your number 3 team, Casino, my boys, the Philadelphia Eagles.
I mean, you said it. We've said it plenty in the past few weeks that Saquon Barkley is an MVP candidate, 100% an MVP candidate. I currently have him at three. You have him as two or one. I don't think you could justify him one because I think with what Josh Allen's been doing is just incredible. Um, but nonetheless, the Eagles are playing really good, and as long as Jalen Hurts does not turn over the football, this team can win the Super Bowl. This team can win the Super Bowl with that defense, with the offense that they have. You got the dual threat quarterback, you got a great running back. It's everything that the Ravens should be, but the Eagles got the better defense.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that defense, Casino, they have something no other team does, which is they have oops.
Horrible fans. Oh wait,
Oh no, every team has that. They have
that's just a shot at you.
the Exciting Whites, which is the name of Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship. They are that is I'm not making that up. That is what they are calling themselves. Somebody sent this, and then Cooper DeJean, I believe, walked into last week's game wearing an Exciting White shirt, and it had him and Reed Blankenship on it. So right now, also they have Guantanamo Bay with Quentin Mitchell, the rookie, who is maybe having the best rookie
Yeah.
season of a cornerback since, I mean,
I mean,
definitely
thank you for
since
doing my
Sauce
power
Gardner.
rankings for me.
Yeah, it is number 3 with a bullet. But now, Casino, before we move to year 1 and 2, we move over to my power rankings because our 1 and 2, this may shock you, are the same. So mine, however, our numbers are different for number
Well, I
10.
figured I know you have a team in there. You have, let me guess, is it the Broncos?
So my number 10 casino is the Denver
There it is.
Broncos.
Hey, great. And so I mean, before you get on to this, I want to say that I alluded to that uh Jaden Daniels is still my front runner for rookie, but man, is Bo Nix right on his tail.
Speaking of exciting whites,
Right on his
Bo
tail.
Nix. Bo Nix.
He looks good, dude.
No, he really does. He looks good last week coming off his best game of the season as well. It seems like, again, with Jaden Daniels, maybe we've already seen his peak where everybody's been amazed by the stuff he's been doing, and then he's just been gradually doing a little less each game. Bo Nix is the opposite. Every week he gets more and more impressive. The more film they have on him, the better he plays. And last week, 4 touchdowns, and then this game he's going to the Raiders. The Raiders are the perfect team to put up 7 touchdowns against, right? Nick Foles did it. So Bo Nix on the season right now. Again, the impressive thing to me is his touchdown to interception ratio is 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but he's completing almost 66% of his passes.
Yeah.
And again, with guys on offense where it's like, I don't know who his wide receivers are. He has Sutton as his number 1 wide receiver in terms of yards, and then the next guy is Veal, Vele. So I don't know who their offensive weapons are, and he's still putting up these kind of numbers. Again, on a team that is 10th or has a top 10 defense, and yet running the ball and passing, they're also 19th and 14th in the league. So I'm really impressed by Bo Nix. I hate Sean Payton, but a hater has to give his respect to Cino. I hate Sean Payton. He's done a damn good job with this Broncos team.
Oh, he's
A
done really
damn
good.
good job
And
developing
that's
Bo
why it's
Nix.
surprising for what Russ has been doing, is because I thought Russ was cooked. You know, it's just
Oh,
they didn't agree. They didn't agree. But, you know, I guess Mike Tomlin knew how to reel him in a little bit.
yeah. Well, also, I mean, you look at the stats Russell Wilson did last year. It's not like Russell Wilson was bad. He just wasn't doing what Sean Payton wanted him to do.
Mhm.
Bo Nix is doing that, and he's playing better than, yeah, Wilson, a Super Bowl winning quarterback, played in this same offense.
Oh
So
yeah, out of the 4 quarterbacks that, like, I've told you I like Drake May, you like Drake May. You
I
know, I
do.
don't think Caleb is a horrible quarterback. I think he's just on a bad team, bad
Yeah.
ran
With
team.
bad circumstances
Yeah,
and all that
with
kind of
bad
stuff.
circumstances. I think all 4 of these rookie quarterbacks are I mean, and I will say Caleb is, again, circumstantially playing the best he can play right now with where he's
Yeah.
at. I this was a great quarterback class, man. Great
Yeah.
quarterback class, because 2 of them are turning teams that, you know, two of them are turning teams into playoff teams that have no reason being playoff teams this year with the Broncos and then Washington. And then you're getting a lot of fight from Drake May. I wonder what Drake May, what this Patriots team would be like if Drake May started. They
That's
could they
true
could
from
they
day
could
1.
they could
Yeah.
probably have 2 more wins on their docket, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
also,
and then
we
Caleb Williams is on a bad team, but he's still relevant, you know? That Chicago team is still okay.
well, and he's also coming off his best game of the season last
Yeah.
week. And so
So
I
this like
agree.
I really like all 4 of these young quarterbacks that came out of the draft this year. They're doing really good things. But Bo Nix, you might take over my sweet, sweet Ryan of a pick, Jaden Daniels. And you know what? Not mad at it. Good job for you, Bo. Great
Speaking
job.
of Jaden Daniels, my number 9 team casino, great Segu, is the Washington Commanders. Basically for all the things we said. I said on last week's podcast, I think if this is a 10-point game, a swing either way of 10 points, I feel like these two would switch places. But what I was not anticipating is Jaden Daniels by far playing his worst game of the season against the Eagles. Because at least we remember when they played the Ravens, they lost that game, but Commanders were lock in step with them the
Yeah,
entire
but
game.
we had talked about it. You told us what the Eagles have done to good quarterbacks this year. So
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels having his worst game against the Eagles does not shock me at all.
No,
Does
especially
not
with the
shock me at
exciting
all.
whites on the field. Especially with the exciting whites, which also we might change the name of this podcast to the exciting whites. But But we've said enough about the Commanders. They're number 9 right now. Again, defense scares me. Jane Daniels in big moments scares me. Other than that, I think this team is pretty legit. I also really like Brian Robinson. Second favorite person of mine to ever be shot. Number 1, obviously 50 Cent. Number 8, to be shot and live. To be
I was
shot
gonna
and live.
say, come on, Tupac, bud.
Yeah. But next up, Casino. Number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. I think we have them in the same spot. Do we
Yeah, we
not?
do. We do. We do.
And again, it's just because I don't trust their defense. And when Lamar Jackson doesn't have a good game, Derrick Henry has to carry the workload. Well, we just saw what happened where the uh, Lamar Jackson doesn't have a good game. Derrick Henry can't carry the workload. They get beat by a team that doesn't have to score a touchdown to beat them.
That's insane. Drink that tea, Bubba.
Uh,
Drink that tea. Whew.
I
Whew.
felt I felt my voice going out, and it's still out. Uh, but next up, Casino, as I try not to die. Next up, my number
Stop making me
again,
laugh.
still getting over it.
Stop making me laugh.
After the Ravens, I believe our next 3 were the same because I also have the Los Angeles Chargers.
Chargers.
Again, I said they would be a real threat to the Chiefs immediately because of how good Harbaugh is at just turning teams around, especially teams around in the same division or conferences as the Superman of college football. Ugh. As we saw with when he went to Stanford and he was challenging USC, and then when he went to Michigan, he was challenging Ohio State. When he went to the 49ers and he was challenging the Super Bowl Legion of Boom Seahawks, and all of a sudden he's going to the Super Bowl. I really think Jim Harbaugh's special
So
is
do you think so with that you start talking all this stuff about the Chiefs, do you really and or about the Chargers and you saying that they could be a real threat to the Chiefs? Do you think the Chargers will go on that road and beat Kansas City in KC on December 8th?
I think I would pick that as the upset because
There
again,
you
I
go.
think we just
And see,
saw
then you're just more feeding into what I'm talking about the Bills possibly. I know the Bills have a tough schedule. And don't get me wrong there, but I just think they are more poised right now
well,
than
especially
our Chiefs fans.
they're now riding high on the confidence that they just beat the Chiefs, ended their undefeated season, and you know, especially did that. What is it in such? Again, you watch that game. The Bills basically dominated them the
Yeah,
entire
I think
game.
if the Bills, yeah, again, Bills lose one more game, I mean, it could be against the Niners, the Rams, or the Lions, and then they'll be okay because I don't think the Patriots will beat them either time or the Jets once. So, I mean, the Bills, I think you have one game out of the next 6 that you can lose because I think Kansas City will lose 2 of them. And you're talking about there's a real good chance about your Chargers here beating them on the
Yeah,
8th.
again, but if you look at who has the most like well-built team to win the Super
Two,
Bowl,
yeah,
I think honestly you could say Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Eagles, Lions, and then I think the next team after that would probably be the
Chargers. I
Chargers.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Chargers, how they're built, their coaching, their quarterback, their defense. I like all of that more than I like anything the Commanders have.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
I
I
mean,
would.
we'll talk about it once we get through the power rankings. I mean, big test this week. We got the
Yeah.
Ravens Monday
Uh,
night.
let's keep going through these power rankings. You know, this is my number what 10,
I know
9, 8, 7.
I'm killing the power rankings. We're talking too much.
Well, I just almost died. So, but I'm back from outer space. Next up, the team.
Oh no, we froze. Oh no.
Are we back?
Yeah, what happened?
I don't know. I lost it, but
But it was a great still photo of you picking your nose. That's great.
all right, here we go.
Yeah, sorry. We got to pick this up. I apologize.
No, no, it's
I
all
think
good.
this has been good content, though.
It has been. It has been. All right. All right. Next up, casino. My number 6 team is the Minnesota Vikings. As again, we have the same. I think we have Commanders, Ravens,
Oh, no.
before we come on this podcast. I mean, you obviously share yours with me, but I make mine beforehand, so I'm not influenced by your terrible picks. For
Mm,
my good ones.
I had Commanders 10.
Oh, you had Commanders 10, and then you had Cardinals, which are not
Yeah,
on my power
I
rankings.
know. And,
Um,
it was between the cards. Those cards, the Commanders, and the Broncos are really close for me.
yeah,
I
and
just
again,
like the fight of the cards. That's all.
yeah, and again, we talked about it when we just talked about the Vikings. Then the rest of the season is really going to paint a picture for what the Vikings are. Are they what is it? A team that peaked too early? Are they overrated? Are they underrated? I mean, because again, most people don't even talk about them, but
Yeah.
they're an 8-2 team.
Yeah, I just think they peaked too early. I think they're still a good team, but they hit their best early.
Yeah, I just think we need to really see, Sam Darnold get back to when everybody was like, could Sam Darnold be the MVP when he was throwing 4 touchdowns a game? But yeah, I just think we need to get back to that and to just see more of them the last month and a half of the season, which is also crazy that the season's almost over because, but next up, I have, you know what? I'm just realizing we could just race through this to save time because I have Steelers. I have
We
uh
almost have the same power rankings.
we do basically have the same power rankings because
It was
after Steelers,
it was
I put Chiefs.
it was 10-9. It was 10-9. That was different. That's
And
it.
again, I did not realize that till we just started doing this. And we're trying to speed through these because I had the Eagles as my number 3.
Yeah, we've already kind of talked about it when with mine. So, I
So
mean,
let's go to the who we have number 2. Is it Lions or Bills?
oh
Number
my,
2 is the Bills.
that's so cute.
And I mean, he's dancing. We got a little dancing snowman for
That
everybody
was us that
listening.
was walking behind them, holding hands.
Yeah. And right now, Casino, why do you have the Bills ranked as the second best team in the league?
Well, obviously because there's a clear number one, and outside of that, the the Bills are doing everything they can. I love the Bills. I do. Um, Josh Allen is playing like Superman, and it's not just him playing well. Like that whole team is playing really good football right now. Cook is surprising us all, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, I honestly did not expect. Oh, what is that just happened? I did not expect Cook to be as good as he was this year for the Bills, and yeah, he didn't. Okay, so I knew he didn't do anything last game. He only had 20 yards against the Chiefs, but again, good defense, right? And with I don't know. Just this team's just good, and it's all because of Josh Allen. Like, I mean, you have Shakir, you have Samlin, you have Cooper, you have Knox. You have some good players to throw to, but he's Josh Allen is just making things happen, man. And then this defense is really good too. Like,
Yeah. Their
they
defense right
just
now,
all good. Everything
uh,
everything about them, they're playing as a complete unit, and I like that.
yeah. And also, I think Josh Allen might be one of the, if not the best quarterbacks in the league, where it's like, we need 2 yards right here. So when we need 2 yards, I mean, you can put that spot. You can put Mahomes, you can put Lamar, you can put
Right.
Jalen Hurts, but Josh Allen does really seem like he's now the front runner for MVP. I do think that Lamar Jackson will still probably win it because his numbers are so crazy and his team's good. But again, if the Bills finish as just a 2-loss team, and right now Josh Allen already has
They'll
18 touchdowns.
I see them losing against the Lions, man.
Yeah, I can't wait for
That's
Bills
gonna be the
Lions.
best game of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because
This was the
that
best game
game's
this was the best game to the year of date, but I do think the Bills Lions is gonna be the best game.
Well, especially because the winner of that one, that might be whoever gets the number 1 seed in their respective conferences.
Yeah.
So that might be the deciding factor of who basically plays home games for the rest of the playoffs until the Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
yeah, Bills number 2. And again, 10th in total offense. They're 15th and 16th in pass and run defense. So
So,
right at the cusp of having a middle of the road defense that's
but
still
you're
again
9-2 and you just beat the undefeated Chiefs. Like
yeah.
it's that's what
And
makes this game scary.
you finally have a running game.
Yeah.
Like that's and now you got Amari Cooper who is, Stephon Diggs without the diva tendencies, which is an upgrade. And then of course, our number 1. So I don't know if you've seen the theme here, Casino. We were out in the winter, it was Aurora Borealis, it was snowing, we got a
Oh, I saw them all.
snowman. Yeah, so again, when you rise all above that, you're at the top of the mountain, which is where our number 1 team is, and that's the Lions. They're above all the snow, Casino. They're on top of the mountain.
Man, that's a
Obviously,
good
the
color on
Lions.
top of that mountain.
It does look good.
Yeah.
And again, everyone outside of the team you root for is a Lions fan. I feel like everyone wants to see them win. I would honestly die happy if they at least won one.
Oh,
Especially with
yeah.
this group, as long as it's not the expense of my Eagles, I would love to see them.
But it's going to be.
I don't know. I don't know. The exciting whites casino, you keep doubting the whites. But the Lions right now, top 5 in total offense,
I mean,
12th
it's
in
pretty
total
clear who's
defense.
gonna come out of the NFC. It's either gonna be well, not pretty clear, but I mean, close to it. It's gonna be either the Lions or the Eagles.
Yeah, I couldn't really see any. Again, I could see some teams upsetting other teams, but if you look at the standings in the AFC and NFC, this is why we did the Super Bowl bubble. I really think there's only 5 teams legit built to win the Super Bowl this year, and none of them are built better than the Lions. The Lions are, in my eyes, and I know your eyes as well, the best roster in football, the best put together team in football, and right now, I think inarguably the best team in football.
Yeah.
Because again, they'll lose games where their quarterback throws 5 interceptions, and then the next week they blow out another team by 45 points.
Yeah.
So they can win anyway. They have the best players. So yeah, again, one of the best defenses, one of the best offenses. They're everything every other NFL team wishes they were.